Okay, good morning everyone, welcome back. Last time we discussed the introduction part of the textbook that was about monopoly and migration to a full competitive market. And chapter 2 is about basic concepts from microeconomics. And I think you didn't take the microeconomic course before, so this is just a very small part, the essential part of microeconomics. So this is not enough to understand microeconomics entirely, but it's good enough to understand power system economics. Okay, so let's go to the market. By the way, chapter 2, there is nothing about power systems. Okay, this is purely economic perspective. So let's go to the market, and you want to buy an apple. And so, hey, we have a notion of market now. So you go to the market. And there are opportunities for buyers and sellers. And when you want to buy an apple, you need to compare prices. And the sellers need to estimate the demand, and the buyers need to estimate supplies. And based on the interaction between sellers and buyers, depending on the price, you know that we can achieve an equilibrium between supply and demand. This is what you learned in your high school, right? But we will go into the detail today. So how much do I value apples? By the way, in economics, the x-axis and y-axis are different from what you use in calculus or mathematics. So typically in mathematics, we have x variable here and y variable there. But in microeconomics, x variable is here and y variable is here. Sometimes x is here, and okay. So it depends on the situation. But normally, the price is an independent variable. You can think the price is a variable that affects the quantity. Okay, so you need to rotate your head when you try to understand this graph. So now you want to buy an apple, and suppose that the price the price is this much, and then let's say this is $10, quite expensive. Then at that price, you can buy only one apple, because that apple is very important for you, for your break. And then suppose that if the price is lower than that, you are willing to buy one more apple, take some apple for your lunch. Okay? And suppose that the price decreases further, this much, and then you buy more apples. Okay? And if the price decreases further, you buy many apples and use that to make some apple pie or homemade apple cider. So this figure is interesting in the sense that apples are same, but each apple has different value or utility for you. The first apple, the second apple, and the third apple. Each apple has different value for you. Okay? That's why when the price changes, the number of apples you buy also changes. That means if the price is this much, then you buy at most this much of apple, because the marginal utility you get when you buy that apple is equal to the price. Okay? So when there is a price, you purchase that good if the marginal utility means that when you buy one more, you get that amount of utility. That's the meaning of marginal utility. So rational customer purchase a good when the price is equal to, up to the point when the marginal utility is equal to the price. Okay? The rational consumers increase the quantity where the marginal utility equals the price. Is this clear to you? If not, you need to read the textbook. Okay? What I want to say is, even though we have 10 apples here, each apple has different value for you. So when the seller changes the price, you need to decide how many apples you need to buy. Okay? So consumers spend until the price is equal to their marginal utility. So please remember this terminology, marginal utility. We will use that terminology a lot in this course. By the way, this utility is different from the utility company, okay? Utility company or utilities is different from this utility. This utility is 효용 in Korean, okay? So actually this figure is for an individual consumer perspective, and so we have 9 students here. So you have your own this kind of curve, you have another this kind of curve. We can aggregate all of that and then at some given price we have some quantity. At another price we have another quantity, the sum of all the demands, right? Then by doing that we can construct a demand curve. Typically demand curve looks like that. When the price is high, the quantity is low. When the price is low, the quantity is high. Okay, so this demand curve, for simplicity, it is drawn by a straight line, but it usually has this kind of a convex function. So this is the aggregation of individual demand at each price. Okay. So, okay, usually the quantity is denoted by Q, and the price is denoted by pi in game theory or economics. So you need to think about from here. You need to think about from this point. Given price, we can determine the total demand, which is denoted by Q. Okay, so this is called demand function. Given price, what is the demand? What is the quantity? Okay. Rotate your head by 90 degrees. Okay, then that is the demand curve. Or you can think this is an x variable and this is y variable. Then at some given quantity, what is the price? Then that is called inverse demand function. Okay, so pi is a function of the quantity, and the relationship is determined by this inverse demand function. Okay, so far so good. And let's think about elasticity of the demand. So the elasticity means that when the price changes, how much the demand changes. Okay, so the slope, by the way, the slope is yeah, rotate your head 90 degrees again. So this is the slope. Okay, so the slope is an indication of elasticity of the demand, and high elasticity means when the price changes, the demand also changes a lot. So small variation of the price, demand changes a lot. This is the case of high elasticity. This is the case of low elasticity. So think about that. The price changes, but the demand does not change at all. So in this case, actually, if this is a vertical line, we have zero elasticity. Okay, so you may think this slope is high, that slope is low, but in this case, that's the opposite. So high elasticity means that that good is not essential. The reason is because when the price is very high, you reduce your consumption a lot. That means you don't need to do with that goods, right? So if the price is very high, I can reduce my consumption for that good. So high elasticity means that good is not essential for your living. Okay? And you can find each substitution. But low elasticity means that, yeah, even if the price goes up, you still need that good. That means that is an essential good, right? So in that case, the customers are at the position of buying goods for their living, for their survival, etc. And the electrical energy has a very low elasticity because of course we nowadays we have many power sources, so you have other substitutes, but typically even though the price changes, the people still need to consume some amount of electrical energy. Of course, you can turn off the air conditioner, but still you need to watch TV, you need to cook. Okay, so electrical energy has a very low elasticity. So this demand curve is typically very, very stiff. This is now vertical, slightly tilted. Okay. If this is perfectly vertical, then the elasticity is 0. So we can define the elasticity, price elasticity of the demand using this form. So E is the elasticity. This is the ratio of the change of the demand quantity over the change of the price. This is also ratio, this is also ratio, and so that's why this is dimensionless quantity. Okay, so when you look at this, what if the price increases 10%? How much the demands decrease? 5% or 10%? Anyway, if the price goes up, then demand goes down. Then what is the ratio of that? 10% of price increase incurs, for example, 5% of demand decrease. Then the price elasticity is 0.5. You see what I'm saying? No. You don't know what I'm talking about. It's something like to speak to the world. Well. Okay, so we discussed the consumer side, and let's talk about the supplier side. So now you are a supplier and you are producing some widgets, some products. So how many widgets shall I produce? And my goal is make a profit on each widget sold. Okay, so what do you want to make? What do you want to sell? Mask. Good. So you may think the cost function to make a mask is linear. Well, maybe that's a linear, but you have a fixed cost. You need to purchase a machine that produce the mask, and then you need to consume electricity, right? You need to run that machine. So I think the cost of running the mask manufacturing machine is a linear function with some fixed cost. But typically, we have a fixed cost and a linear term, but typically this supply cost function is convex function. Yeah, straight line is also convex, but no. Second order polynomial or something like that. So that means produce one more widget. Okay, you increase the volume of the widget, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the marginal cost to produce one more widget increases. That means when you take the derivative of your cost function, then the derivative of cost function is still increasing function. That means your cost function is convex function. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So, under this circumstance, you only produce a widget only if by selling that you can get some profit. That means the price should be higher than your marginal cost. Okay? So produce one more widget if and only if the cost of producing it, this is marginal cost. Marginal cost is less than the market price. Okay? So to determine the quantity to produce, you need to know the cost of producing the next visit, the marginal cost. And in microeconomics, we usually focus on the variable cost, not the fixed term, because that is easier to analyze. Anyway, so yeah, for now, we ignore the fixed cost. And this fixed cost means investments in the production plants and machines. Okay? So how much does the next one cost? This is about marginal cost. So this is the quantity to produce, and this is the cost of producing a widget. I think this is an interesting animation. So normal production procedure. This is the unit of the production. This much cost occurs. And to produce more, you need to use all the machines that was not used before, because the demand increases. You need to produce more. Yeah, you use all the machines that was not used before. And when you need to produce further, second shift production. The meaning of second shift production is that the first shift production means, for in the case of employee workers, from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. That is the first shift. And so second shift means 초과 근무. Okay, and the wage for the second shift production is higher than the first shift production. Okay, the overcharge is typically more expensive than the normal charge. And 3교대 근무 or something like that. So third shift production, that incurs higher cost. So this is the marginal cost of the production. Sorry, this is just a cost function. Yeah, not marginal cost. No, this is the marginal cost. Yeah, this is marginal cost. So up to this point, the cost for each element is this much, and after that point, the marginal cost is that much, etc. So we have, when we collect this, we can construct the aggregation of marginal cost curves of all suppliers. It gives us this supply function. So the supply function means that, again, at some given price, how much the sellers or producers will produce. So pi is here and Q is here, so this is a supply function. There was a typo in your slide, so this is correct. This is supply function and this is inverse supply function. And this shape, this is inverse supply function. So pi here and Q here. So here we do not take the cost of investment into account. That means there is no fixed cost. Okay. And the reason why we are saying this with this graph is because this is the marginal cost. So even if there is a fixed cost, that is not reflected in this figure. Okay. Okay. So we have a supply function, we have a demand function, then these two functions meet at some point. Okay. So you think that is a market equilibrium. By the way, we can also define the price elasticity of the supply, which means when the price changes, how much the producing quantity changes. This is also the ratio. And please pay attention to that. This y-axis can be interpreted as either marginal cost or price. Okay? So as you see, this marginal cost is an increasing function. So the cost function is convex function. If marginal cost is flat, then the cost function is linear function. Okay. So let's talk about market equilibrium. So this is a supply curve, which says the willingness to sell at some price, how much I want to produce. And this is the demand curve, at some price, how much I'm willing to buy. Okay, and they meet at some point, and this point is called market equilibrium. So, and this price is called market clearing price. Market is cleared means that supply and demand meets at some point, and there is a market price. Okay, so market clearing price, and this is the volume transacted. And this is called market equilibrium. And the reason why we can use the terminology equilibrium is because when we deviate from this point, there is a force that push the sellers or buyers to go to this point. So when we are here, we are stable. When we are somewhere, we move to this point. So let's see why that happens. Actually, economics is you are the students of electronic engineering departments, and maybe you learned control theory, 제어공학개론 or 자동제어개론, something like that. Okay, so the economic system, our society is a very complex system, an interactive system. So they interact with each other. So dynamic system. So economics is kind of dynamics or control. We can view the economics using the control theory or the dynamic control theory. So we have an equilibrium, but if we do not reach the equilibrium yet, then anyway we will go to that equilibrium as time goes on. So if price too high, what happens? There is a little demand and very high supply. Then what happens? You produce a lot and you see that there is little demand. Then what would you do? I want to sell it at a cheaper price. Okay? So you decrease your price. Hey, you can buy this good with cheaper price than him or her. Okay? So the price can decrease. By contrast, if the price is too low compared to the market clearing price, then there is little supply and many demands, and you really need to have that goods. And then you are willing to pay more, right? Some people are willing to pay more, and they buy the goods, so the price goes up. So this is the equilibrium. This is an equilibrium point. Actually, the equilibrium point. We have one equilibrium point here. So I talked about market equilibrium. And when we have supply function and demand function, it is very easy to compute the market equilibrium point. Just compute the intersection of these two curves. So actually, in microeconomics, conceptually we have these two functions, but in reality, it's not easy to have the demand function. Typically, the supply function is easy to get because it is easy to estimate or measure the marginal cost. It depends on the machine or the producing facilities, etc. But about the demand, we need to estimate that. At this price, how much demand would occur, right? So that should be estimated by the marketing team. Okay, so the people in the company try to estimate this demand function. Anyway, assuming we know demand function and supply function, we can compute this equilibrium point. And at that point, sellers have no incentive to sell for less price, or buyers have no incentive to buy for more. Okay, so we talked about market and market equilibrium. And let's think about two different types of market. The first one is a centralized market. The centralized market means all the sellers and buyers come together. Okay? And one of the mechanism we can use is auction. Auction, you know what auction means. So there are sellers and buyers, or producers and consumers. So the producers enter their offers. That means at this price, I would offer this amount of goods, this quantity of goods. Okay, so then that offers are stacked up to construct the supply curve. So suppose that we have 5 sellers and 4 buyers, and each sellers can submit their price and quantity to sell. I can sell at this price this much quantity. You can sell with this price and this much quantity. Each producers can have different price and quantity offers because they have different producing conditions. Similarly, consumers can enter their bids, again, quantity and price. And these bids are stacked up to construct the demand curve. So in this textbook, we are using this offer and bid separately. So offer is for producers and bids for consumers. But sometimes we just use bids. Okay, so for example, the paper that was recently accepted, yeah, that was about the bid, the strategy of the renewable producers. Okay, you don't know that paper, so okay. Anyway, so here we use bid for consumers only, but in other papers or textbook, bid can be used for producers as well, because bid is very general terminology. Okay. So this is the offers from the producers. At this, so you need to interpret this like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 students actually. So one of you are the producers. Kunju has the most efficient machine. So his cost is the lowest. And this is the capacity of his machine to produce mask. Okay? And this is the machine. This is the marginal cost of Minjae, for example. This is slightly worse than Kunju, but still very low. So suppose that he can produce 100 masks. He can produce 50 masks at the price. So 100 plus 50, so this is 150. So each producers have their own marginal cost and the amount of quantity. And we just stack up. And then we can have this kind of curve, supply curve. So this supply curve reflects the marginal cost of the producers. Produce 1, 2, 3, 4, da, da, da. Okay. Similarly, for the consumer case, yeah, again, Kunju, no, Gyeongyong wants to buy this much at this price, and Yeji wants to buy, yeah, Yeji, this is $10, suppose that this is $9. Yeji does not want to buy the mask if the price is higher than $9, for example. Okay, so Gyeongyong is the richest guy, so he doesn't care about the money or price. So he's the only one to buy mask. And Yeji is the second richest student here. So when the price is $9, she is willing to buy this much. Okay? And Ch2 is the third richest person. So she is willing to buy mask this much at $8. So each consumer has their own marginal utility when get the goods, and that's the price they're willing to pay. Okay, people 1, people 2, people 3, and then when we stack that together into this direction, we can construct this demand curve. Okay, and they meet at some point. This is the market equilibrium point. So intersection determines the market equilibrium, and the market clearing price and the transacted quantities are determined. So because I told offer and bids in a centralized market, and this kind of transaction is based on auction, centralized auction. So, and the interesting thing is, in this auction market, everything is sold at the market clearing price. This is the important thing. Okay, when the market is cleared at this price, all the transactions happen at the price. Okay, and that makes the market efficient. That makes the market optimal, and we will see why. So yeah, from producer's perspective, the price is set by the last unit sold. What does that mean? This is the marginal cost function, and this is the price. And that means, at this point, at this quantity, I'm saying the same thing again and again and again. So at this quantity, that's the marginal cost. And yeah. So we have many producers, and for the marginal producer sells the good, the last unit in the market, and gets exactly its offer. So actually the profit is 0. Do you understand that? No, we have many suppliers, we have many producers with different marginal costs.